Hello, beautiful humans. Thanks for joining me this evening. I apologize to those of you who've been waiting. I intended to have the settings for the live to start at 8 p.m. and I didn't realize that the settings said that it was starting right away. So my apologies. If you're here for the first time, welcome to the channel. Please take a second to like the video. If you are able, please subscribe. That's the best free way to support the channel. And we are here tonight to unfortunately talk about Lori Vallow Daybell's latest motion in her conspiracy case in the state of Arizona. She has been filing lots of motions now that she has decided to represent herself. Judge Boudreaux granted her motion to do that. He also granted her request to be referred to as Daybell. So even though she did not legally change her name to Daybell, she is now, the judge ruled that she can represent herself as Lori Daybell and be referred to as Lori Daybell throughout these proceedings. So this motion actually was filed, I believe, on the 17th. Justin Lum posted it yesterday on X. And so I'm just now having a chance to comment on it. And again, I'm not an attorney. However, I spent a lot of time with Lori growing up, and I know her personality style and her personality traits, and it makes complete sense to me that she would want to represent herself in the trial rather than having competent legal counsel. Judge Boudreaux granted her request to go pro per, is how they refer to it in Arizona. However, she does have 2 advisory council members who are helping her file legal motions, and she also has a legal assistant who's helping her to make appointments and conduct interviews with witnesses, etc. So this latest development in the case is not really a huge surprise. She is asking to have a portion of her Arizona cases dismissed on the grounds that she has not received a speedy trial. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. I'm happy to take your questions and comments after we go through the motion itself. Again, okay, sorry, just had a glitch there. These motions are handwritten by Lori herself and pretty badly spelled. Her legal arguments are thin. She's got some logical fallacies going on. I'm not here to really necessarily unpick the legal arguments of it, but just to talk about the case itself and to answer any questions that you have about what's been going on so far. For those of you who don't know, Lori was extradited to Arizona to stand trial for 2 different cases. One is the conspiracy to commit murder in the death of her 4th husband, Charles Vallow. And the other is the conspiracy for attempted murder in the case of Brandon Boudreaux, who thankfully survived the attempt on his life. The state of Arizona did not decide to combine the 2 trials, and that's part of what Lori is going to complain about in these 2 motions here. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Give me 1 second, please, to share my screen. And I always refer to Justin Lum's X account because he is the reporter who broke this case back in Chandler in 2019. And he has been covering the case the entire time. He is the first media outlet that granted me an interview back when Lori's trial started in 2023, in April of 2023, when everyone was calling her the perfect mom, saying that she was always lovely and wonderful until she met Chad and then she snapped. And I knew the other side of Lori, the vindictive side, for a very, very long time. And so I started speaking out about her personality traits and about the toxic family system in which we all grew up, and also about the religious implications for what she and Chad invented as their theology, which has its roots in the mainstream LDS Mormon church. So Thank you for being here. If you're here for the first time, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. I will be covering the entire case. So let's go ahead and go to Justin Lum's post on X, which was posted yesterday. He says, a motion to dismiss the case for lack of speedy trial was filed by the Doomsday Mom, making some bold statements. He says, I'll break down the motion seen below. Lori Vallow Daybell says speedy trial should happen within 150 days of arraignment, which was December 7th of 2023. So let's go ahead and take a look at her handwritten filings here that she makes. So you can see she's referring to herself as Lori Daybell. She's completely dropped the Vallow designation here. She filed this on January 14th. Sorry, I thought it was the 17th, but the 14th at 2:33 p.m. She checks the box where she says she's representing herself without a lawyer. And she refers to two different case numbers. If you'll look on the right side of the document, there's CR 2021-001704, and then there's CR 2022-001242. And she texts the box on the second number there. So it says State of Arizona versus Lori Daybell, and the title is Motion to Dismiss CR 2022-001242 for lack of speedy trial. Now, this is the case of the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. So here's what she says. The defendant, Lori Daybell, requests this court to dismiss case number CR 2022-001242 with prejudice. Facts. Number one, the defendant was extradited from Idaho on November 30th, 2025 to Arizona. Now, actually, she was extradited on November 30th of 2024 because 2025 hadn't happened yet. Number two, the defendant was arraigned for two separate charges on December 27th, 2023. So actually, sorry, she was extradited on November 30th of 2023. She was arraigned for two separate charges on December 7th of 2023. A trial date was set at that time for a speedy trial on April 1st of 2024. A speedy trial must commence within 150 days, and that's according to Arizona state law. Going to page 2 of 5, the facts that she's putting forth in this number 4, the judge deemed these charges complex, which gives the state 270 days to give the defendant a speedy trial. Number 5, the new trial date was set for August 1st of 2024, with the last possible day to begin trial September 2nd, 2024, to be in compliance with the speedy trial within 270 days. Number 6, the former defense team filed a motion for continuance, and she puts in brackets there, which the defendant objected to on the record. But it was granted, and a new trial date was set for February 24th of 2025. Number 7, a Rule 11 was also filed by former defense team, further delaying the trial, and a new trial date of March 31st of 2025 was set. Number 8, it has now been 314 days since the defendant was arraigned. Number 9, on January 10th, 2025, Judge Boudreaux declined to set a trial date on CR 2022-001242. And number 10, the trial date that is set on March 31st, 2025 is for CR 2021-001706 only. So she's trying to outline here basically that on January 10th, which was her last hearing, Judge Boudreaux declined to set a trial date for the Brandon Boudreaux case. If any of you watched that trial, which I have the full video of the, sorry, not the trial, but the hearing. I have the full video of that status conference hearing that occurred on January 10th. And Lori did ask at the end of that conference for Judge Boudreaux to address the date of the Brandon Boudreaux trial. But the judge basically said that, hey, you know, we have to get through this first trial before we can set a date for the second trial. And, you know, I completely agree with the judge. When you're talking about the same defendant for two different trials, it would be pretty impossible for them to set a date for the second trial before they have even commenced with the first trial. Lori still hasn't told the court, or at least not publicly, how long she thinks that her portion is going to take in the trial. During the last status conference, we heard the state that basically said they believe it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks for jury selection, and that the state is going to take about 2 weeks to present their case. We didn't hear from Lori how long she's going to take to present her portion of the case. So there's no way to know exactly how long this trial is going to take. Jury selection begins on March 31st, but again, we don't know how long the trial is going to last. And not knowing that, it's pretty impossible for the judge to go ahead and set a trial for the second case to take place, because again, second jury has to be selected in that case, a completely separate jury. And all of the motions and filings and discovery that have to do with that second case, the Brandon Boudreaux case, all of that has to take place before a trial date can even be set. So for those of you who've even been following the case, when she was arraigned after her extradition back in December of 23, setting a trial date at that point was already, 9 or 10 months later. So as you can imagine, after this first trial is finished in the conspiracy for Charles Vallow, it's probably going to be 8 or 9 months after the Charles Vallow trial that Lori even gets a date for the Brandon Boudreaux trial. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure that Judge Boreski is going to have a hearing on this. He could just deny her motion, right, without a hearing, or he could grant her a hearing on this motion. It'll be interesting to see how he handles it. He's been very no nonsense so far, and he's also been very patient with Lori, considering her motions and considering everything that she puts before the court, and also giving her a little bit of guidance. So in my opinion, I think the judge is probably going to come out and say, there's some logical reasoning. There's some fallacies here that you're not, there are some, logical fallacies, and there's some reasoning you're not considering in this case. Sorry, hello to my dog who's visiting our live stream tonight. Hello. Do you need to be here right now? Can you go that way, please? And thank you. Go that way. Go that way. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. There's more to her motion, so I want to go ahead and dig back into that real quick. Please go the other way. I'm sorry. My dogs are like velociraptors, and their tails make so much noise. I apologize. Please make as much noise as possible exiting the scene. Thank you. My dogs are a Shepherd Pointer mix, and their brother and sister. They come from a litter of 11 puppies. I rescued them from a pretty horrible situation, and their names are Loki and Valkyrie. And every time that Loki gets into mischief, I have a friend who's like, well, you named him that, and so therefore that was your fault. And I don't disagree, but it's a little crazy. Anyway, let's go back to Lori's motion here. So going back to number 9, on January 10th, which was her status conference, Judge Boreski declined to set a trial date. Well, Lori asked, what are we going to do with this? And Judge Boreski said, basically, we have to get through this first trial before we can address the second trial. He didn't decline to set a date. He just said, we have to get through this first trial first. Then number 10, the trial date that is set on March 31st is for CR 2021-001706 only. That is that's the trial for Charles. It's interesting to me. Obviously, these are handwritten motions. They're badly spelled. The grammar is not great. Lori underlines and writes only in all capital letters with an exclamation mark, this is something that attorneys generally don't do. Generally, attorneys, in my experience anyway, which admittedly is limited, attorneys stick to the facts. They refrain from emotional language in motions like this for the most part. And they refrain from using all capital letters. They refrain from using exclamation marks. They simply lay out their case. They state what they want to state, the facts for their motion in a dispassionate way, which I think is the way it should be. So finally, Lori says it is the position of the defense that no trial date has ever been set for, I'm not going to read the numbers again, but that's Brandon's case. This alleged crime occurred over 5 years ago. The state of Arizona has had plenty of time to figure this out. At no time has the state ever been willing to combine these two charges into one trial. Well, one would ask, Lori, have your attorneys or yourself as your own attorney ever filed a motion for those two trials to be combined? And again, I'm not an attorney. I may not know exactly what the legal reference is here, but I'm just trying to think about this logically. So 1A, therefore, why did they not schedule two trials at the arraignment? Well, again, there's going to be reasons for this. B, why did the state arraign the defendant for both cases on the same day, knowing that they could not provide two separate speedy trials? Well, Lori, one could argue that the state didn't realize the complexity of the trial and that you were arraigned for two separate cases because you're being charged in two separate matters, and they wanted to arraign you as soon as you arrived because that's also part of the legal process. C, the state had 5 years to figure this out. This is just one of those things. It's like an attorney would not make that argument or that statement. She's just mad, basically, is what she's kind of saying here. And then D, if the state would have arraigned the defendant on one charge and then arraigned the defendant on the second charge 1 month later, then two speedy trials could have been maintained. The state failed to do so. So her argument here is they should have arraigned me for one case first and allowed that to begin and then arraigned her for the second case. Well, I don't know exactly what the legal reasoning is behind this. Again, if there are any attorneys in the comments, please call great attention to your comments so that I can understand this. But it's my understanding that when somebody is brought in on charges, that they need to be arraigned in a timely fashion, that they can't just be held on charges without an arraignment. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm assuming that that's probably part of it. Anyway, she goes on in letter D, by March 31st, 2025, it will have been 394 days. Underlined. She's always going to have that histrionic addition to everything she writes. Since the defendant was arraigned, the defendant has never waived her right to a speedy trial, never in all caps and underlined. And then she says the Sixth Amendment declares, and she underlines each one of those words. The Sixth Amendment declares. I can just hear her voice in my head. And then at the top of page 4, she rewrites again, the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution declares, underlined. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. And she puts that in quote marks. And then she cites one of the rules from the state of Arizona. It says in the state of Arizona, the designated speedy trial is to be within 150 days of arraignment. She cites another Arizona code. If the case is declared complex, then, I think she writes then twice, then the date of a speedy trial is extended to 270 days from the arraignment. Sorry, her handwriting is not the best, guys. No trial has ever been scheduled for, I'm just going to say Brandon Boudreaux trial. Therefore, the defendant's constitutional rights have been completely violated in, capitalized both words, by the state of Arizona. She cites another rule. The only remedy to this violation of this defendant's constitutional right to a speedy trial is to dismiss the Brandon Boudreaux case with prejudice. Dismissing with prejudice means that the case can never be brought to court again. At no time has a trial been given for the Brandon Boudreaux case. At no time has a trial ever been scheduled. At no time has a trial been given for the Charles Vallow case. At no time has a trial ever been scheduled for the Brandon Boudreaux case. Then she cites another rule and says the defendant's constitutional rights have been violated. The government must follow its own rules. An evidentiary hearing is requested, signed on January 8th of 2025 by Lori Daybell. Now, that's really interesting because her status conference hearing didn't happen until January 10th. So she wrote this and signed it on January 8th before that status conference ever happened, which is where she claims that Judge Boreski failed to set a trial date. So her asking Judge Boreski to set a trial date in the Brandon Boudreaux case on the hearing of January 10th was clearly a trap. She was like, I already have this motion ready to go. And if he doesn't set a trial date, I'm going to file it, and basically ask for the case to be dismissed. So this is what Justin Lum says. She's charged with conspiracy to commit murder in the death of former husband Charles Vallow and attempted murder of ex-nephew-in-law Brandon Boudreaux. Brandon Boudreaux was married to Melanie, now Pulowski, but then she was Melanie Boudreaux. The alleged story is that Lori convinced Melanie that Brandon was gay and that she should divorce him. Melanie then did divorce him. They had a pretty lengthy, drawn-out custody battle, which I think is still kind of going on at this point. And then allegedly, Alex used Tylee's Jeep to appear at the home of Brandon Boudreaux, where he sort of had, gone into hiding. He didn't really tell anybody where he was living except Melanie. She was the only one who knew that address, apparently. And he was shot at after returning from the gym. The bullet hit the frame, the door frame, near the passenger side, near the driver's side, and he was not hurt. And then the Jeep, left the area very quickly. Brandon initially followed the Jeep, called 911, and subsequent to this incident, Brandon hired a private investigator. And I believe that it's because of the efforts of that investigator speaking to multiple law enforcement agencies that law enforcement started to put together the murder of Charles, the disappearance of the children, and the attempted murder of Brandon, that these things were all connected. So Justin goes on to say, Lori Vallow Daybell cites former defense filing motion for trial continuance, which she didn't want. So Lori says, I didn't want a trial continuance. I went on the record to say that. Then subsequent to that, there was a Rule 11 motion that was granted by Judge Boreski. It was filed by Lori's former attorneys. They wanted to have her mental health evaluated to see if she was competent to stand trial. So they filed that Rule 11 motion. The judge granted it. She was evaluated. She was found competent, which in this case only means two things. It only means that she understands the arguments. She understands the charges being brought against her, and she's willing to participate in her defense. Doesn't mean she's not mentally ill. Doesn't mean she's not still delusional or has potentially personality disorders, hyper-religiosity. All of those diagnoses probably still apply. However, she's competent to stand trial. Doesn't mean that she's healthy. Anyway, Lori says in her motion, it has now been 314 days since the defendant was arraigned. The current trial date is to begin on the 31st of March of this year with jury selection. Justin goes on to say, Vallow Daybell says Judge Boreski did not want to set the trial date for the Brandon Boudreaux case, only scheduling for the Charles Vallow murder case. Quote, the state of Arizona has had plenty of time to figure this out. Justin goes on to say motion also accused Arizona of failing to arraign her on both charges separately, never planning to combine the two cases for one trial. Lori Vallow Daybell says it will be 394 days since her arraignment when trial begins, and she never waived her right to a speedy trial. Lori says her Sixth Amendment constitutional right has been violated. Quote, the government must follow its own rules, she writes, and now wants an evidentiary hearing. And that's on page 4, which you can see here, her signature. She writes Lori Daybell. There is no Vallow anywhere on these papers. She signs the paper. There's no date on this page, which I find interesting. And then the supplement here says Maricopa County Sheriff's Office Inmate Legal Services, basically certifying that on January 14th is when she filed this motion. There's a legal support specialist signature there. And obviously Inmate Legal Services is helping her out with these motions. And so I think that is the last tweet from Justin, Psychic Reverend Donna Serafina, which I have heard much about, asks, is she facing the death penalty in Arizona? And it says, no, she's not. The death penalty is not on the table because this is a conspiracy case. It's not a first-degree murder case. And so that's the reason for that. I do want to read some of the comments that came in underneath this thread. But first, I would really like to see some of your comments. And I apologize, I've been looking at Twitter and I haven't looked at your comments at all. So if you had a question and you called attention to it, good for you, because then I'll see it. If you did not call attention to it, you might want to put it back in the chat again. Thank you all for being here, by the way. Please take a second to like the episode, like the video. If you have the capacity to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. I'm almost to 10,000 subscribers. I appreciate all of you who have subscribed to the channel. I will be covering the entire case, as well as I also talk on my channel a lot about healing, specifically lately healing from narcissistic abuse. And I also talk about other true crime cases and exiting my family system, my crazy family system. So I would love to have you join us on the channel. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Sherry, for asking how I am doing. I'm actually doing great. I'm busy, podcasting, YouTubing, and developing new things for my channel. So I'm really excited about what I'm going to be rolling out lately. I've been teaching an e-course on how to identify and defend against manipulative behaviors, the types of behaviors that people like Lori Vallow Daybell use against us in our everyday lives. I've been really enjoying that. And I'm enjoying interacting with you, channel members, and people who come to my channel. I love to hear people's stories and give people a chance to talk about their experiences and their healing. So I definitely, Buster's daddy, can hear Lori's voice reading that. It's only slightly less annoying than actually hearing her talk for real. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm just looking for questions, you guys. I'm looking for questions here. Thanks, lots of you enjoying my dogs. I appreciate that. Yeah, and Kaylee, I agree with you. This is like high school writing. It's pretty childish. The whole thing is pretty childish. Like her representing herself is childish. The arguments are childish. There's just not a lot of logic here. So, Buster's daddy says, Megan, could you do a parody of Lori and throw on a judge's robe to play both parts? I don't know if I would be willing to do that. I mean, it might be funny for a minute, but it's so gross. I feel gross about it. I don't know. Joe Schmo says, she's definitely the smartest person in the room. How did we not notice this before? I think that is sarcasm, and I'm here for it. Yeah. Yeah, I could do my hair like Lori's. I have not really kept up with what Brandon is doing. I used to sort of keep in touch with that part of the family through Melanie's Facebook. She and I were friends on Facebook, and I used to, watch her Facebook profile for updates on that. Obviously when they got divorced, this was during the whole crazy times of things that were happening with Lori and Alex, and totally lost touch with that part of the family, a long time ago. But it is possible. I think he has remarried. I'm not positive, but I hope that he is doing well. When I see him in public, he seems to be doing well. I was really, really touched by the way that he showed up for Kay and Larry during this entire horrific experience, especially when the children's bodies were found on Chad's property. I really appreciated the way that he was there for Kay and Larry, and I think he probably still is. So I really appreciate that. I have to take a deep breath. I am not Golden Heart says, she is so dramatic, Lori. I don't understand why she would want to represent herself because many of the well-known defendants who represented themselves did not work out for them. Well, yes. And as I've said many times, I think, we've said this before, anyone who represents themselves has a fool for a client. There's a reason we have attorneys. And part of it is for the dignity of the legal process. But the other part of it is that, there are attorneys who have been attorneys for their entire careers who end up in court and don't represent themselves. There's a reason for that. And part of it is because, first of all, the legal field has specializations, just like the medical field does. Some attorneys practice family law and some practice criminal law. And the intricacies of the laws and the amount, just the sheer number of cases that are out there that can be used for legal precedent, you could spend a lifetime of studying those in one specific area of the law and still not know all of them. So it's just not wise to represent yourself. Beside the fact that, Lori has a high school education, then she went to beauty school. She didn't have any college training. She thinks that she's an expert because she's delusional. And because I see, and here's the other part, I haven't really quite totally unpacked this yet, but I believe that she's having help from her father, who also has claimed sovereign citizen status, I believe, who believes that he doesn't have to pay taxes, who believes that the IRS is an illegal organization, who was prosecuted and served jail time for tax evasion, but still, continues to put out there that, he was an estate planner, and you have to have a legal qualification to do that in the state of Arizona, but he received a cease and desist from the state of Arizona because he never passed the bar in Arizona, so he's not allowed to practice law there. But I sort of hear his voice and his legal reasonings in these briefs because, unfortunately, I've read more of his book than I care to admit. But it's really Lori's show that she's putting on here reminds me a lot of Barry, and I think that Barry is helping her possibly put these arguments together, because it really just is not it's not a cohesive, intelligent, well thought out argument that we're seeing put forward here. So, and just the histrionics of the language, the bad spelling, the bad grammar, all of those things. So anyway, to address your comment, I don't understand why she would want to represent herself. Well, there's one reason and one reason only. It's because Lori loves the spotlight. It's because she believes she's smarter than everyone else. And I believe that's part of her delusional disorder, that she really thinks that she is a translated being, elevated above all the rest of us spiritually and intellectually. And I think she really believes that she knows better than her attorneys how best to go about this legally. And I think, honestly, I think it made her angry when her attorneys filed for a continuance because they needed more time to go over the voluminous case files. I also believe that she was angry with them over the Rule 11. She did not want her mental health brought into this trial. In fact, she filed a motion to have her records sealed and to have it disallowed for those records to be discussed during the trial. So I believe that she's angry with the attorneys who have represented her thus far, and that she really does believe she can do a better job. It's part of her delusion. So every time Lori does something crazy, I hope that all of you out there just are unsurprised. Are we surprised when she does something that is knuck and futz? She just is delusional. So let's be unsurprised. Let's understand that crazy is as crazy does. She's going to continue to do Lori things. And we're just here to kind of, I'm here to just witness this and to help give some perspective, because I think a lot of people don't understand personality disorders, don't understand delusional disorders, don't understand her religious upbringing, her family system. That's what I'm here to help people understand, is that her behavior is actually completely reasonable when you take into account the fact that she was raised in a toxic family system. She was raised in a high demand religion. She attached herself to a person who was delusional because he said that he was, the Holy Ghost. He came up with his own theology that was loosely based in Mormonism. And she did all of this because she can't sit with the fact that she's deeply insecure. She has not been really given love, acceptance, or belonging or validation from her family system or from her religious system, which were the two most important things in her life. And she just is deeply insecure and deeply disturbed. And so she's deluded herself into this alternate reality because it's easier for her than facing the truth of the reality of her life. And so can we just be unsurprised that, it's perfectly reasonable that this is where we are and this is what's happening given the circumstances that have led up to this. Now, I will also say there are plenty of people who came from the same family system and the same religious system who have not done harm to other human beings, especially not, their own children. So it's possible to go through horrific and horrible, abusive, controlling situations and come out of the other side healthy. The choice is I am either going to heal from what was done to me or I'm going to protect myself so that never happens again. Protecting yourself, you develop these really unhealthy coping mechanisms. And that's why we are where we are right now. When we don't heal from our own emotional wounds, we then perpetrate those wounds on other people. And that's the message that I always want to talk about more than anything else, is just for people to know that we all have unmet emotional needs. And for a lot of us, that's a traumatic experience to not have our emotional needs met. If we don't heal from those wounds that we have, then what ends up happening is that the people closest to us suffer. And I didn't want the people close to me to suffer. And so I did the work that it took to heal from those emotional wounds so that I could have healthier relationships and a happier life. Lori didn't do that work, and I don't know why, but I can also say I understand why people don't do the work, because it's hard work. It takes a lot of dedication and effort and slogging through the mud. If you imagine the journey of Frodo going to dump the ring into the fires of Mordor, that's kind of how it feels to dig into your own trauma and to try to heal from it. It's a long journey. It's horrific. You feel like you just want to die most of the time, but there is light and peace and healing on the other side. So anyway, I just want to put my plug in for going to therapy and working on your issues rather than, perpetrating the same harm onto other people. So I apologize for my dogs in the background. They're just rambunctious this evening. There must be squirrels in the yard. Nanny Rock, thank you so much for your support and your kindness. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So thank you guys for being here. If you would please take a second to like the video, I'd really appreciate it. And also, about half of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed to my channel. And I just would really appreciate it if you're not subscribed yet to please go ahead and do that. It's the best way to support the channel for free. And I would appreciate that. Also, if you're interested in taking my course on how to identify and defend against manipulative people, you can email me at askmegan@gmail.com. It's two E's, and I will put it here in the chat for you. Also, if you have other questions about the trial, I would appreciate an email, because the content on this channel is for you if you are here. And if you have questions about the trial, about Lori, about the case, and you would like a video on it, I am happy to make a video on it. This is what I do all the time, all day, every day, is make videos for the people like you who are out here wanting to understand these things. So I appreciate you being here. And Black Widow, it's always great to see you. Thank you for showing up, even though it is 3 a.m. where you are. You know what? I'm going to make a concerted effort to do some lives earlier in the day so that it's not such a sleep deprivation for you, because nothing is more important to your mental health than quality sleep, quality nutrition, and surrounding yourself with healthy people. So I am going to be appearing on Web Sleuths in about 45 minutes or so to talk all about this motion that is coming out. So if you would like to go over to the Web Sleuths channel, I will be there. I love the Web Sleuths channel. They are beautiful people. They are very generous. They have me over anytime that they have questions about this case. And I really appreciate their kindness. Their channel members are just wonderful people. And they also do excellent work helping to reunite loved ones with the people that they've lost in their lives through DNA Solves. So for those of you who are just joining us, we're only about 40 minutes in, which these days is kind of short for me. But we've been going over the motion that Lori Vallow Daybell filed in her Arizona conspiracy case just a few days ago. She's asking for the Brandon Boudreaux portion of her charges to be dismissed with prejudice because she believes her Sixth Amendment rights have been violated and that she has not been afforded the right to a speedy trial. Basically, Judge Boreski on the 10th set her trial date for the Charles Vallow conspiracy trial to happen on March 31st of this year, which is when jury selection is going to begin. The state has said that jury selection may take 2 or 3 weeks. The state intends to take about 2 weeks to present their portion of trial. Lori has not yet said how long she's going to take to present her case. And I'm assuming it's going to take a while. Sorry again for the dog in the background. I assume it's going to take a while because Lori is obviously not a seasoned attorney. She's going to need a lot of help. Can you please just go over there? Go to your cage. Go to your cage. Go on. Go to your cage. No, he's trying to back out like a crazy person. I don't even know why you're over here. I love you, but can you go away? Which just makes him wag his tail harder. Sorry about that. Loki, please go to your cage. Go to your cage. Go on. Go this way. Go on. I'm so sorry, you guys. He there's cords and stands in front of him and he's very confused. So there you go. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I completely lost my train of thought where I was, but Lori filed this motion because on January 10th during her status conference, Judge Boreski set, her trial date. We don't know. Okay, that's what I was saying. Sorry. Thank you. It's going to be a while because Lori's not a seasoned attorney. I assume there are going to be a lot of objections to the things that she says, to the arguments that she brings up. I assume she's probably going to want to preach the gospel of Lori, and the judge is probably not going to put up with that, nor is the state. Also, she doesn't really know how to cross-examine witnesses, so there's going to be some trial and error there where she's figuring it out. So I think it's probably going to be a longer trial than normal just for those reasons. And then if she, causes a bunch of ruckus, the judge can remove her right to represent herself and reassign her attorneys, which I'm sure is going to, delay the proceedings even further. So I assume it's going to take a pretty long time. So all of that to say, it's impossible to set a trial for the Brandon Boudreaux case when we have no idea how long this trial is going to take. So all of that to say, I think it's going to be a long time. So Black Widow, I call Loki the dog of mischief. So yes, it's entirely my fault for naming him thus. Thank you so much for gifting memberships, Carolina. I really appreciate that. That's so kind of you. I have not ever listened to Reverend Donna Serafina. I've heard lots of people have recommended her to me. It's just not, I just haven't gotten there yet. There's so much to read and watch and listen to. And managing my own channel and everything. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, but I'll make a point of it now because so many people have told me about it. They generally, so I have things arranged in my house so that their tails cannot knock anything over, but it is definitely a weird situation with my dogs and their tails. They've broken so many things I can't even tell you. Yeah, and this is my point too. She's going to be in jail for life anyway. She's never going to see the light of day. However, the reason why she's doing this, I believe, is because she knows it's her last chance to be in the spotlight, to hold court, to command people's attention, and that's why. Black Widor, thank you so much for gifting a membership. That's really kind of you. Carolina says, thank you. I appreciate everything you say and do. I know it's not much, but I feel like I would love to help your channel grow. I really appreciate that. You guys, literally every little bit helps. And it makes me feel so good to know that I'm helping other people to understand the case, to understand Lori, to understand mental health things. I just really appreciate any support that you can and do give. I'm going to go back to Justin Lum's Twitter real quick and just read a couple of the comments that I found interesting. And then I probably will end because I am going to go over to Web Sleuths here in just about 45 minutes or so. Oops, did not mean to do that. Okay, there we go. All right. So I just want to go read a couple of these comments. And also, you guys, if you hear, the noises in the background, my kids are here, obviously, as well, too, enjoying their evening. So A Star Z says her fact one says she was extradited from Idaho, November of 2025. Hello. It was definitely 2023, not 2025. At Michelle says, charges should be doubled for her taking her damn time letting Larry and Kay know. Yeah, there's a lot there. Then someone puts on the Thread Reader app. Somebody tags Lawyer which I know a lot of my people follow Lawyer I like that channel as well. Thomas says, this woman cannot be serious. She's nuts. There's no way the judge will give her that motion. Sometimes I'm shocked at the stupid things that she asks for. Well, once again, let's not be shocked. She's not that bright and she is delusional. So let's not be shocked by her delusion. It's, it's crazy, but that's on par. That's right on par for Lori. Kate says, it really is surprising these judges can't see the writing on the wall coming with these pro se defendants who've already shown an affinity for causing court headaches. I get the judge was trying to give Daybell and her lawyer time to prep. But when she stated, and if you click on this, her objection and refusal to waive her speedy trial rights, the judge should have stopped pussyfooting around and scheduled the damn trial to begin. I actually have a great deal of respect for Judge Boreski. I think he's doing an excellent job. And his I see it as a huge responsibility for him to make sure that she has her rights, that she, gets her rights represented, and that she gets represented competently by both the court and by her attorneys so that there can't be a mistrial. And so the judge has to follow legal procedure, and that's what he is doing in this case. I think he does see the writing on the wall. I think he knows pro se defendants are going to be difficult, but he has to give her that right. That is her constitutional right. So then Megan Room's mommy 328 says, I found an error on the first page, claims she was extradited. Yeah, we already covered that. Texas Charm, hilarious. She slowed it down. Yeah, she was the one who slowed down the trial with her mental health stuff. There's a new document on Lori's Idaho docket as well. Oh God, please save me from all of these trial docket paperwork things. I'll look into it, guys. Okay. Just checking out comments here where Marquita says, no, not her last chance. She's got to lead the 144,000, right? Well, if she ever gets out of jail, which she won't. I agree with you, Buster's daddy. I think the judge is fair and patient. Yeah. So yeah, she's going to lead 144,000 prisoners in jail, but apparently her following is not that big. So Melissa says, I knew she would try and pull this. I love Judge Judy and her eye rolling. That's how I feel too. She really thinks she's something else. She does. William Keene says, throw out the motion for bad spelling, JK. I mean, if you could throw it out for bad spelling, then all of her motions would have been thrown out already. So OM Hart says, okay, now it's Valkyrie. Hi, warrior princess dog. Can you go away, please? We're not going to get any respite from Lori or from my dog's tails, apparently. OM Hart says she just used her portal to get out of prison. I love it. Valkyrie, go to your cage. She's very obedient for like a minute. She'll go sit in her cage, and then because I haven't closed the door, she just will pretend like she's not in there. Yeah. So anyway, I appreciate you being here, guys. Thanks for unpacking this with me. Again, I'm going to be on Web Sleuths in just a little over half an hour now to talk about this very motion. Once again, I love Web Sleuths. Go follow them. They're wonderful true crime people. AT Chick, thank you. Your dogs love you. That says all we need to know about you. I love these dogs. They literally just turned 6 years old. I rescued them in at the beginning of 2019, and I don't know. I saw the conditions that they were living in, and I always said that if I was going to have dogs, I wanted to have two, because I wanted them to be able to like play with each other and not be sad and lonely. And so I rescued these guys, and I almost immediately regretted it from the standpoint of like, they destroyed everything, they chewed everything. I spent so much money replacing things that they destroyed and chewed up, but I would not I would not have it any other way. Like my whole life got disrupted by these dogs, but kind of in the best way. They have been here through a lot of difficulties for me. So I love them, but also they do bother me enormously because they take over my whole life. Anyway, they are trouble, and that's part of the reason why I named Loki. They had different names when I rescued them. Their names were Gravy and Polly, and I was like, really? Because they said that Loki, that he was good as gravy, and I was like, I'm not going to call him that. Anyway, Natalie says, hello, Megan. Love watching your podcast. You're doing a wonderful job with the podcast. Love from Akron, Ohio. Thanks. I really appreciate it. I love podcasting. I love connecting with you guys. It's a lot of fun, and I appreciate you being here. So stay tuned to the channel for all things Lori Vallow Daybell. I'm going to be following the case very closely. And also, I just want to put a little bit of a disclaimer out there, because I am not the type of person that likes to jump on a live immediately as soon as news breaks or as soon as something happens. I generally tend to take my time to think about how I feel about things, because this case is my family. This case in particular, there are a lot of cases that I don't want to immediately comment on, because I want to take the time to be thoughtful and to consider lots of different perspectives and opinions. I am the type of person that does not make judgments impulsively. I don't hear something and immediately make a judgment about it. I like to really be thoughtful and considerate. I like to listen to all the voices who are out there. I know there are a lot of voices out there who disagree with me about my comments on this case, and that is okay. I leave everybody the space to speak about their own experiences, and that's what I'm doing. So I love that you're following my channel. I'm glad that you're here. Please just know that when something breaks in the case, I may not immediately go live and report on it. I take my time to consider how I feel, and sometimes I have to process some difficult emotions, as was the case when Colby posted his video about his call with Lori, with his mom, where Lori basically blamed everything on Tylee. I had to spend some time unpacking my feelings and processing my emotions around that before I was able to speak about it. So I appreciate your patience with me. You can get like breaking news, true crime. Hidden True Crime is a great place for that. It's a wonderful place for that. They also are really thoughtful and considerate. And they are some of the people that have treated the family members, I think, with the most compassion and dignity. So I'm always grateful for them. Breaking news, not my forte, especially with my own family's case. I'm going to take my time, but you can bet that I will comment. I will be there to give some perspective on it. And just to clarify, for those of you who've never been here before, thank you for coming, by the way, that I am Lori Vallow Daybell's cousin. We spent summers together as children and teenagers, and I lived with her and Adam in Austin for a few months. And we spent a lot of time together as young moms. Colby is a little bit younger than my oldest daughter, and they spent a lot of time together. Janice and Barry, who are Lori's parents, lived in San Antonio for about 10 years. And during that period of time, we spent all kinds of time together. Every holiday, twice a year when Mormon Conference was on, we would go over there. They had a pool. They were always having parties. So I spent a lot of time with the Coxes, Barry and Janice, and also, other members of the family. But I'm the only person who is distanced to this degree from that part of the family, and also out of the Mormon Church and speaking publicly about it. So my perspective is going to be very different than some other people's perspective on this case. I want to be fair to other people who are commenting. Everyone is entitled to their opinion and also has different points of view because of their experiences. So all I want to say is that when you come to this channel, it's going to be a unique perspective. It's going to be fair and balanced. That's what I strive for. It's going to be factual. That's what I strive for. But it's also going to be from the point of view of my experiences, which are very different from some others. So that's what you're going to get when you come here. And I'm always going to be real about my emotions and about my feelings about the case and my family and the church. Please do feel free to ask questions. Again, ask Megan with 2 E's at gmail.com. I am happy to address questions and make a specific video for anything that the general, people who are watching the channel are interested in knowing or understanding. I do have lots of videos on my channel already about when I believe Lori and Chad first met each other, whether or not they believe it, where Chad got his theology from, my opinion on the 7 gatherers. I have lots and lots of videos. They're all on a playlist about the Lori Vallow Daybell trial and about the Chad Daybell trial. So please feel free to consume those videos, share them with anyone who you know needs to hear them. Diane L. asks, where do her parents live now? Her parents live in St. George. That's where my parents also live. I believe that all of the siblings who are related, so my dad, Janice, my uncle Rex, who is my dad and Janice's younger brother, and their other sibling, I believe they all live in St. George. And so, yeah, they've kind of stayed close and together. So anyway, I'm going to jump off now. I'm going to go over to Web Sleuths, and I hope to see you again on the channel really soon, anytime there's breaking news. And if Judge Boreski grants a hearing on this motion, obviously I'll be covering it. So I appreciate your support and your kindness. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your comments and your engagement. Please subscribe to the channel, and I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.